Welcome to the story of the sower. This story is from chapter 13 in the Gospel of Matthew, verses 1 through 9 and 18 through 23. Jesus was a storyteller. His stories were called parables, stories that teach. Parables are not tidy. They are designed to make you think. The parable of the sower is unusual among Jesus' parables because it comes with an explanation. The sower in the story flung seed everywhere. Some fell on the path, some on the rocky ground, some among the thorns, and some on the good soil. Apparently, this sower was more concerned with extravagant sowing than its efficiency. Much of the seed that was sown did not grow because of where it fell. It was eaten up, had no real soil to take root in, or was choked out. But the seed that fell on good soil brought forth lots of grain. In his explanation of the parable, Jesus compares the fate of the seeds with believers hearing the word of the kingdom, God's word. If they don't understand it, it is snatched away. If the faith that grows from the seed does not have deep roots, it will wither and die during a troubled time. If a person hears God's word but doesn't care about it, it too will yield nothing. But if a person hears God's word, understands it, and takes it to heart, it yields wonderful things. There are many factors in this story that affect the end result of the sowing: soil quality, weather, birds, other plants. No matter what, the crop doesn't always come in. Farming, after all, is risky. But the real point of the story may not be the emphasis on the yield. It might be more about the sowing. The sower in the story flings seed everywhere. There is nothing about the sower's sowing that is carefully done. The seed falls where it falls. It is perhaps too tidy to insist that the sower is God. Jesus does not come out and say that in his explanation, after all. But this story might lead us to think about God and the extravagant ways that divine grace and love are flung about generously. As a leader, you are at work sowing seeds every week you meet with your kids. Here are some tips to help you spread God's love this week. The reality in many denominations is that a majority of youth stop attending church regularly after they are confirmed. One reason? Youth report that they do not see Bible stories as applicable and relevant to their lives. The good news? Kids are interested in how their faith and life could be connected. You're helping them make that connection now. As you explore this story with kids, remember that you are God's instrument. God works through leaders like you to spread the word. Kids this age are beginning to understand allegories better. For this lesson, explain that the seed can symbolize the message of Jesus. Where the seed falls symbolizes the person it is shared with, that person's situation, and their reaction to it. Brainstorm with your kids what scenarios in their everyday life may relate to each of the places where the seeds fall. One concern in this lesson is that we begin to blame the seed for what happens to it instead of recognizing that the seed is simply thrown and does not always have control over its environment. Once we share God's word, we can't control what happens next, but we can trust that God is at work. The parable of the sower is both told and explained in Matthew 13. There are also many other parables told in chapter 13. Direct your kids to the definition of parable found in the glossary. Talk about this definition and why Jesus used so many images from farming and agriculture. Encourage the kids to try retelling the message of this parable using illustrations from their own lives. Be ready to uncover new layers of this story as you explore the sower with the upper elementary learners you lead.